Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mixtape Matinee. I am Court.
And I'm Cole, and Court has switched it up this time.
I know.
I love
Normally, you introduce the podcast.
I think it's good. I think we probably should be switching it up
Yeah,
a little
should
bit
we-
to make it so people aren't expecting the same thing every time they turn this podcast on.
And forgive me if I sound a little different. I have a bit of a cold going on, but maybe you won't even be able to tell. I don't know. This week, Cole and I watched some movies.
Court, do you want to tell everybody though how you came
Yeah.
up with like the idea for these two movies this
So
week?
my uncle, who is an avid film connoisseur, approached me and was like, "Hey, Court, I have thought of a few different movie pairings that you could do." And so I texted my uncle's different ideas to Cole. I was like, "Hey, do any of these spark your interest at all?" And Cole, out of those ideas, chose this pairing, which was Once Upon a Time in America paired with Once Upon a Time in the West.
Yeah, and I think one of the other options was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but I'd already seen that, and I don't know, these seemed a little more interesting. They're films that I've always heard of, but I've never watched. I thought, like, before we even watched them, I actually thought, like, have I seen Once Upon a Time in the West? Like, I was pretty sure that I'd seen it, and then when I started watching it, I was like, no, I've never seen this. I think I was getting it confused with like The Wild Bunch or something. I think that's kind of, I got those confused in my mind.
That makes sense. They're both films directed by Sergio Leone.
Who is most famous for directing the spaghetti westerns in the 60s, like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Fistful of Dollars.
Yeah, a few dollars more.
A few dollars more. Yeah. Those are probably his most famous ones.
So. Yeah, and actually, it was after he completed the Dollars trilogy that he would go on to make Once Upon a Time in the West, which we each decided to research up on one of the films. I took Once Upon a Time in the West. Cole took Once Upon a Time in America.
Yeah. And did you know, I didn't know this either, because we were just talking about how he had, like Sergio Leone, he had those three films, the Fistful trilogies, I think is what, the trilogy I think is what you call those three movies we talked about. But then his next idea is he wanted to have another set of trilogies, and two of these films are actually part of that trilogy. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Once Upon a Time in the West, Once Upon a Time in America, and then the other one had like a random
it was
title that I don't remember off the top of my head. Oh, it was Duck, You Sucker.
Yeah.
Which
actually had
I've never seen that. Have you seen that?
I've not seen that. It's another Western, and it actually had an alternate title.
Oh, Once Upon a Time, The Revolution.
Yeah,
oh, okay.
So they all kind of have but the title that it's most well known for.
Oh, that's funny. Rod Steiger was the lead in that.
Yeah,
He's
it didn't
a famous.
receive the same kind of accolades as these other two films.
Well, Rod Steiger is like a big like cult actor.
Oh, really?
Whereas in like these films, like you have Robert De Niro. And then you also have
some really big stars.
And then the other one you have Charles Bronson and
Henry Fonda. So let's do Once Upon a Time in the West.
A film by Sergio Leone, starring Claudia Cardinale, Henry Fonda, Charles Bronson, and Jason Robards. A manhunt. A vendetta. In a new land. In a new kind of Western.
So actually, originally, so do you say Leone?
I think it is Leone.
Okay, Sergio Leone.
Or Leone.
Yeah, I thought it was just Leone, but
Either way, people know what we're talking about.
yeah, he originally wanted to do Once Upon a Time in America first, but the studios, he was known for his westerns, and so they kept turning him down, and they would only pitch different Western ideas to him and try to get him to do Westerns. He felt like he had put his Westerns behind him. He'd said everything he wanted to say in that genre. And he had read this book that had inspired him to want to create Once Upon a Time in America. But the studios weren't having it. They wanted him to make more Westerns because his Westerns had been so successful. Initially, he was approached by the same studio that had released his Dollars films, United Artists, and they offered him the opportunity to make a film starring Charlton Heston, Kirk Douglas, and Rock Hudson. Quite a cast.
Yeah.
And he turned it down.
Yeah.
But then Paramount slid into his DMs and was like, hey, we'll give you this really big budget and the chance to shoot a film with your favorite actor
Yeah.
of all time. And he took the job. And that actor would be Henry Fonda. So speaking of the cast, it stars Henry Fonda actually as the villain.
Yeah, that was interesting when I first started watching that, because I've just known him as like the good guy, and so seeing him as, it was totally different. It was kind of shocking, kind of seeing him in that villain role.
Yeah.
But I feel like, I don't know if they made him look like this in the movie, but he seemed like an
Like
old,
he was an older man.
like he was an older guy villain kind of.
Yeah,
a
I
thing.
totally see that. And
Like, because I feel like that role, like maybe at the time it would have been like people would have like wanted to cast someone younger, but
well, and what's interesting is when Henry Fonda originally showed up to start filming, he had brought brown eye contacts and had grown a handlebar mustache because he was trying to be like
tough guy.
kind of trying to project a more sinister, which I guess brown eyes because brown eyes are evil. But he was trying to project this more sinister look. And Sergio Leone said, no, I don't want to just do this like stereotypical villain. So take out the contacts and shave your mustache. So that's kind of interesting.
And because Henry Fonda has those bright blue eyes.
Oh, yeah.
And so on this film, they're like, actually, so I watched it with Foster and Tabitha, and we both commented on that.
Yeah, no, and one thing about that is I just looked up the proper pronunciation. It is Sergio Leone.
Leone, okay.
Yeah.
I'll try to remember that.
Yeah, well, you're the one who said it right. In this film, he does a lot of these close-up shots of their faces that are really cool.
And that's honestly
Like zoomed in to their eyes.
I mean, that's like a style that he made famous, and that, you know, Tarantino later used that in his other films.
It also stars Charles Bronson as the nemesis to Henry Fonda, Jason Robards as a bandit, and Claudia Cardinale as a newly widowed homesteader. This film was co-written by Sergio Donati when Sergio Leone had written the film. He was really, really aware of its length.
Yeah.
And he wanted to cut down on that. And so he had Sergio Donati go through and help him shorten it up.
Which that's a kind of a funny thing that we picked these two films because they're really long.
They are very long.
They're like both over 3 hours long.
The story was also developed by Dario Argento and Bernardo Bertolucci. As well.
Oh, you're killing those name pronunciations.
Let's hope so. I'm probably butchering them.
No, you're doing way better than what I would be doing.
And then the widescreen cinematography was by Tonino Deli Colli, and acclaimed film score was by Ennio Morricone.
Which he did a lot of the music, and he actually did the music as well as in Once Upon a Time in America as well. So.
Yeah, and it's these really sweeping, epic orchestral pieces, and each of the main characters has their own theme in the film. And the most striking theme to me is the theme for Claudia Cardinale's character, because it's just this like Italian singer singing. It's this woman singing. They're not words; they're just vocalizations.
Yeah,
and it's just really haunting.
The one theme I really liked was Cheyenne's theme. It's
really?
It's like the Bandits theme. It's that one that has the little banjo in it. The
Oh,
ding 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 ding.
Oh
ding.
yeah, I remember.
It's like,
yeah,
it's kind of funny because his character is a little bit like that. His character is a little bit comic relief in the film.
So as a spaghetti Western, originally it was shot in Italian and then dubbed. Almost all of the actors were able to speak their own lines, with the exception of Claudia Cardinale, who was dubbed by actress Joyce Gordon, and Gabriel Ferzetti.
Is that just probably just because of their accents?
Yeah, because they're Italian.
Yeah.
This is kind of interesting. It was a massive hit in France and was easily the most successful film released there in 1969, 7th of all time. And this is kind of a fun fact. It sparked a brief fashion trend for duster coats, which took such proportions that Parisian department stores had to affix signs on escalators warning patrons to keep their maxis, which was what the nickname of the coats were,
Dusters, huh?
clear from the edges of the moving steps to prevent jamming.
Dude, Dusters. That's hilarious that a spaghetti Western made.
I know.
Dusters go back into style.
I know. Unfortunately, Paramount edited the film and released it in America, where it was not a box office success, and a lot of people attribute that to the edits that Paramount enforced on the film. Just in regards to its accolades, Time named Once Upon a Time in the West one of the 100 greatest films of all time, and Empire held a poll of the 500 greatest movies of all time, taking votes from 10,000 readers, 150 filmmakers, and 50 film critics. And Once Upon a Time in the West was voted in at number 14, the highest Western on the list. Directors such as Martin Scorsese, George Lucas, Quentin Tarantino, and Vince Gilligan have all cited this film as an influence on their work. And I went through the critic reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, and one thing that I noticed is many of the reviews reference the film's mythic, poetic, operatic nature, and many of the reviews call it a masterpiece. There were two blurbs from two reviews that I thought were interesting. Sean Burns said, Leone's glorious, inflated epic isn't just any old Western, it's all of them. Which Leone pulled from a lot of other Westerns when making this film.
And when you're saying like style and plot and like
he even took like specific things, like he took from the Searchers. Like, did you notice during that really intense scene, all the animal life goes quiet and the cicadas go quiet?
Oh yeah.
Like, he took that from the movie The Searchers.
Oh.
And he took like other things, and he basically paid homage to all those different films. And then I really liked this comment by John Beefus, another reviewer, and he said, a Leone masterpiece. Its deep focus panoramas, looming widescreen close-ups, and brilliant sound design are as distinctive as the ballistic signature of a bullet. So now, after all of that introduction, if we just want to kind of go over the plot, but I think we don't need to go in minutia.
Yeah,
but I think the one thing that I definitely want to highlight is the beginning.
Yeah, the beginning for sure is the favorite part of the film for me.
Yeah, why don't you talk about it?
Well, it first opens up with just having the credits rolling as you see this scene kind of play out at this train station. And there's some dialogue, but it's very sparse. It's mostly just like silence. And then you're kind of seeing these characters and what they're going to do. And it opens up with these three guys that are part of a gang, and they're waiting for this train to come. And they lock the ticket guy in his office. And I think if I remember right, they're waiting for someone to come off the train to
They're waiting
to
for
kill
Harmonica to come.
Yeah, they're waiting for that guy to come so they can shoot him and kill him and take him by surprise. And it just starts showing each character and what they're doing. So like the one guy that's just sitting down, he's dealing with this fly, but he's not just using his hands, he's like using his face, and he's messing like with his gun, like trying to catch this fly. The other guy is like underneath the water tower, and there's like water dripping on him. And then the other guy is just like standing over by next to I can't remember, what is he doing? I can't remember.
He isn't shown as much.
It just shows like them like just doing
just
these
like rocking in a chair,
like mundane things.
Yeah.
And
but there's this intensity because the silence.
And even though the dialogue, there's like barely no dialogue, you were immediately sucked into the film. And I think totally. that's what I loved about the beginning of the film.
Yeah, so. And multiple reviews mention it and say it is considered the greatest opening credits scene of all time. Like
I would have, I mean
it's pretty remarkable. It's
pretty hard to beat.
Yeah,
and then I thought that one scene was really funny when the train finally does come and the guy has the water in his hat. He pulls it off and then he just drinks it.
Yeah,
he like almost smiles, like he's kind of proud of himself. Like, yeah, I waited this whole time just to drink this water. And then as then they realize like, where's this dude at? And they don't know where he's at. And then the train leaves, and then he surprises everybody, and and then there's like this really intense face off, like who's gonna shoot first,
and he kills all three of them.
And boom. And he does get shot, but
an interesting thing about that, Leone wanted the three men who ambush Harmonica to be played by Clint Eastwood, Lee Van Cleef, and Eli Wallach.
Yeah, from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Exactly. In a symbolic killing of the Dollars trilogy, which Leone wanted to put behind him.
I think that would have been that would have been so cheesy.
It would have been.
That would have been so cheesy.
Yeah.
And like just having like Clint Eastwood, like just having him in that one role and then killing him off.
Yeah.
But I will say the one guy I really liked was the guy that was dealing with the fly. Yeah. I like kind of wanted to see like more from his character. Like I was kind of like bummed that he got killed off so fast.
Well, because even though it's these few moments, they all kind of draw you in, and it's very interesting.
Well, it's like a 10 or 15 minute opening like sequence. So.
Yeah, is it really that long?
Something like that. Yeah.
Well, so I thought a easy way to kind of tell you the basic synopsis of the plot without going into too much detail would to be to tell you the main the main groups involved. So first of all, there is this railroad tycoon named Mr. Morton.
He's the guy that's kind of disabled, and he's got that big thing around his neck.
Yeah, he has
and
tuberculosis.
and then he's like, "Oh, like I pulled myself up by the bootstraps,
Yeah.
and I made something of myself."
And he's hired a gang which is led by Frank, who is Henry Fonda,
Yeah,
to intimidate the people who are living in this area where the railroad is going to expand. And those are the McBains. Well, Frank and his men end up just killing those people, killing the father and the children,
yeah, this family.
which is really a sad scene.
Yeah,
And then into town rolls Claudia Cardinale, who plays Jill McBain.
who you find out is actually recently married the
Exactly.
the father of that family,
And so she
So
inherits that land.
and she's entitled to that land. Right.
Exactly.
A lot of the film is like Frank they're trying to get a hold of her and trying to get possession of the land rights,
Exactly.
so that they can put the railroad right through her land.
And one important detail that I probably should have mentioned is when they kill the McBains, they frame this other group of outlaws called Cheyenne's Men.
Yeah, Cheyenne. He's like kind of like the
Yeah.
funny kind of
Yeah.
comedic relief kind of character.
Yeah. They frame
He's
him
cool.
by like leaving this leather that, because his men all wear the same dusters.
The duster that became famous in
in
France.
France. Exactly. So Cheyenne then takes an interest in like exonerating himself, but also he develops this soft spot for Jill McBain.
Right. Yeah.
And then you have Harmonica.
Who's just this guy that opens up at the beginning of the film, and you're like, what's his deal? You're trying to figure him out. He's kind of like Clint Eastwood's character in the Dollar series, kind of
Yeah.
like Man with No Name. But
Yeah.
he just goes by Harmonica because throughout the film, he just lifts up his harmonica and plays like just like a few notes. It's kind of funny, but also kind of badass at the same time.
Yeah. And he is.
But you later find out like why he's there anyway. But that's the most interesting part of the story, I think, too.
Yeah, and he is the nemesis of, or he sees Frank as his nemesis.
Yeah.
And you find out why later, because of this tragic backstory.
You can watch the film and find out exactly what happens with that, because that is like an interesting part of the film. And there's some interesting camera shots that they throw in that are kind of blurred, and then later it's like resolved.
Yeah.
And it kind of at the climax of the film, and it makes the ending way more interesting, I think, because of that backstory that you're not exactly sure of until
There's kind of this mystery.
until the very end.
Yeah, like why is this guy getting involved? Why is he helping Claudia Cardinale's character? And then it slowly reveals itself.
Yeah.
And he gets his vengeance. I really enjoyed this film. I was really enthralled by the majestic shots. Honestly, so many of the shots look like paintings.
Yeah, they do. I think, because the widescreen, I think, helps a lot too. Showing you the area, the background, the landscape. He takes his time on that. And I think that's why it makes it look like paintings. Is because he takes his time with those shots.
And even though it's a desert environment, it's really vibrant. Like the colors are really vibrant. I definitely would give this movie like probably a 4.5 out of 5. What do you think you would do?
I think I need to rewatch this film, because when I watched it was late at night and I had a long day, and
it's a long film.
It's a long film, and so there were times where I kind of like was kind of zoning out a little bit.
Yeah.
There's that one scene though that's kind of funny and kind of bizarre when Frank is trying to seduce what's the woman character? I forgot her name.
Oh.
There's that one scene where he's trying to seduce her, and they're like in this
And it's
weird
yeah.
suspended bed. Do you remember that? That scene was like so
and honestly,
bizarre.
I did want to bring up that scene too because
weird.
both films probably come with a trigger warning slightly.
Yeah,
that scene is coercive. Like he is basically coercing
like it's
her.
kind of cringy a little bit, but like in a funny way.
Oh,
it was like making me laugh, like kind of like, oh, this is kind of embarrassing.
You can tell it's old fashioned and
I know, but it's just it's so weird, like just seeing Peter Fonda in like that role.
Henry Fonda,
Sorry, I keep wanting.
I wonder why Peter's coming.
I don't know why, but yeah, Henry. I keep thinking Henry, but anyway, that scene was just kind of bizarre to me too, a little bit.
Well, and it is coercive, just so people are like, he is coercing her into.
Well, yeah, he's trying to get
sexual,
and he's trying to get the
favors.
land, as much as he can.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, I think I would need to rewatch it. I do like. I like this film. Like visually, this film is amazing to watch and to look at, and it's more artistic, I think.
Yeah.
In some sense, more than Once Upon a Time in America, and it's also more classic Leone style.
Yeah.
Just that spaghetti western style. So if you like those films, you'll like this. I personally like. I mean, judging it off, I like the Dollar trilogies a little more, just because they're more like at the time. I think he didn't have as much experience when he made this film. He had gone through making several films, so it wasn't like, I don't know, in a sense like punk rock, kind of how like those early films were.
Yeah,
because they were on such low budgets. And they were that's why they're called spaghetti westerns.
So was this almost overdone for you? Like,
I don't think so. Like the style is still there, and I just think the movie is really long.
Yeah,
and
that's fair.
I get that he probably wanted like a lot of those things to be in there to tell the story, but I think he could have maybe trimmed it down. But I think that's also why it makes it so epic, is because of how long it is. So I liked it. But I think I liked Once Upon a Time in America more. Yeah. And I guess that's a good transition into us talking about that one.
Yeah, good.
So let's talk about Once Upon a Time in America.
Let's do it.
I'm not interested in your friends in high places, and I don't trust politicians.
No, if we listened to you, we'd still be rolling drunks for a living.
You broke?
You'll carry that stink of the streets with you the rest of your life.
I like the stink of the streets. It makes me feel good. I like the smell of it. It opens up my lungs.
It began as a dream. It grew to an empire. It ended as a mystery that refused to die. Robert De Niro, James Woods, Elizabeth McGovern, Joe Pesci, Burt Young, Tuesday Weld, and Treat Williams in a Sergio Leone film, Once Upon a Time in America.
So Once Upon a Time in America was released in 1984, and this was the film that you were talking about earlier, that this is the film he wanted to start with.
Exactly.
Because it was based off of the book called The Hoods, which is by the author Harry Grays, and it tells the story of these young Jewish kids in New York City as they rise in kind of the gang culture of the early 20s and 30s during Prohibition. And the film is interesting in that it's not linear, so there's flashbacks and flash forwards throughout the film. And originally, when Leone had made this film, he had it that way, but then I guess Paramount actually switched things around and made it to where it was in chronological order, and because of that, it suffered on its initial release. And so later he went in and there was like a new version done where it was out of order. And that's the version now that everybody can watch, is the way that he wanted it, kind of out of order. And the main character that you follow throughout the film is a guy named Noodles, which is played by Robert De Niro. And then the other main character in the film is Max, who's played by James Woods. And again, it just tells the story of their friendship as young adults and then into later in life. before Sergio made this film, do you know what movie he was offered to make instead of this?
No.
So I looked it up, researched it. He was actually offered the part to direct The Godfather.
Really?
Yeah, and he turned it down because he believed so much in this story that he wanted to tell through this book that he had read.
Wow, that's
which I thought was
fascinating.
kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And again, in this film, Leone uses the musical score of Ennio Morricone. And again, all of his scores, this movie has just awesome music. It's really great, and it makes the film way more epic. Just like the Once Upon a Time in the West, how you were saying before, how he wanted it to be longer, but then the studio was like, no, you need to cut it down. It's the same exact story with this film. He originally had it at 4 hours and 30 minutes, and they were like, no, you need to cut it more. He ended up cutting it down to 3 hours, like 3.5 hours, basically. So he cut like an hour of it out, which I'm kind of curious to know what he would have cut out. And I can't believe that he had that much footage, you know?
One thing that I thought was interesting with the score was you'll have like these moments of really intense violence or just like gritty realism, and then this warm orchestral nostalgic score comes in, and it almost at first felt misplaced to me in a way.
Yeah.
But to me, that contrast actually was really interesting.
Well, I think maybe where you're thinking about that is maybe because Noodles, like Robert De Niro's character, is thinking back on the old times, like when he was younger and when he had, you know, his friends around him and when he was part of this gang. I don't know.
Well,
what do you think about that?
I think that's right. And I think part of that is there's a couple of times where the song Yesterday by the Beatles
Oh, yeah. I thought that was kind of interesting.
is
like,
referenced. Yeah, and I think that hits on that nostalgia, that remembering kind of, and also that regret, because that song is about reminiscing about former days because you have regret because of how things have turned out.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And so this film, it's interesting how the film starts and ends. It starts with De Niro's character going into a Chinese opium place and basically him getting high, and it's in the 30s because you find out that his friends tried to go and rob a bank and then they were shot and killed. So that the movie starts and ends with that exact same thing. So it's kind of like these bookends to this massive story, because this movie is even longer than Once Upon a Time in the West. But I think the thing that helps it, at least for me when I was watching it, it felt like it didn't feel slow to me at all. It felt like this story was always progressing, but it's not even really a story, more as like just little memories, I guess. So like there's these memories that you see kind of them play out.
That's a good way of putting it.
Just sections of Noodle's life.
Like these little, is the word vignettes, like little like moments of
vignette,
his life.
Yeah. And that's kind of the main plot of the film. I mean, it deals with a lot of human things like friendship, love, lust,
betrayal,
greed, things that you see a lot in gangster films. And this film also has a lot of accolades. It's on a lot of different lists. And it's been quoted as one of the best gangster films of all time.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. Again, really a beautiful film.
It is different though, because this film is not. It feels like this is like his big budget movie film. You know what I mean? Like it's not Leone's. Like when I watch it, I don't think, oh, this is a Leone film. I think like this just seems like a big box office film. What
That's interesting. It was his final work, I think, right?
Yeah, it was his final film, and it was.
Yeah.
It's just interesting that it was. The film didn't feel like to me like.
Well, it's so different from what he'd made before in a lot of
ways.
Which
I think, like you said, because he wanted to make this film earlier. He probably just wanted to get out of that Western box that he'd been put in. And so I guess this was probably just like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do things a little different, which I respect. I respect, because I guess it would be weird for him to shoot these city scenes in widescreen.
Yeah.
And like close-up shots, I don't know if it would have worked as well.
Yeah.
With, like his style.
It still feels like an epic, and it still feel like the other film, Once Upon a Time in the West, was referred to as a cowboy opera, and this one I could totally see being called like a crime opera.
Right.
Did I say Oprah?
No, you said opera.
Okay.
You said opera.
I felt like I said Oprah.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just fun watching like these little glimpses into his life.
Yeah.
And then later you notice that I guess maybe a broad scope of the plot is you find out that his gang of friends, they make a promise to each other that whatever money they make, they put into this suitcase, and they can only open it when they're all together at the same time and, get the money. And so later in life, when De Niro's character's older, he's wondering, like, what happened to all that money? Like, the suitcase is gone. And then he ends up finding out that there's a key that leads him to this locker, and the bag is there, and he opens it up expecting to like see millions of dollars, because he's like, I remember we had like millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And he opens it up and it's not there, but he finds a note, and he gets invited to this party by this big politician guy, and he's like, what is this? And he's like, this seems like, because he's been on the run from the law and from other rival gangsters, like gangs, and like basically he's been living in Buffalo, like trying to survive. Once he finds out, like after he found out that his friends had died. Anyway, that's kind of the broad scope of the plot. And there's going to be spoilers in this. He finds out that Max, James Woods' character, he didn't die. He faked his death, and then he ended up becoming even more rich. Yeah. And he invites him to this party basically to pay him all the money that they had in that bag, but on the condition that he kills him. So he's like, I want you to kill me because I've done all these things. Like, people are coming after me right now, which seems like an insane idea.
Well, and they had been like, out of everyone in the gang, they were like brothers.
They were like brothers, yeah.
Yeah. And so finding out that is his name Max?
Max, yeah.
That Max had betrayed him in this way, faked his own death, taken the love of his life, taken all of his, like, basically his fortune for like 35 years or whatever it's been. I think was a pretty like devastating blow, but then he just doesn't acknowledge it. He just doesn't, like, he just keeps calling him by his fake name. He just keeps calling him secretary.
I think just because he'd like moved on and like he'd lived so much of his life. And,
really?
Like,
see, I interpreted it
like
differently.
I just think he's like, well, and I also think because like in the middle of the film, you find out like Max's dad like went to an insane asylum, so he's like really touchy about like being called crazy, and he gets this wild idea, remember, to like rob the Federal Reserve Bank, and he's like, you're insane. And he freaks out for like over the top almost, and I remember laughing like how crazy that scene is. And then De Niro just like looks at him like, you are so crazy. Yeah. And then there's another part in the film as time goes on, Prohibition ends, and so they're trying to figure out a way to make money. And anyway, that's how he comes up with the idea of like, let's rob the bank because we won't be able to make money off of liquor. And then he's telling him, this is a dream. This has been my dream forever, is to rob this bank. And just how he talks, like, you just know he's insane. And then later on in the film, the fact that he staged this whole thing, it just kind of proves that he is a little insane and he's crazy. Because I don't know how you felt, but at the end of the film, it seemed like James Woods' character Max, he seemed almost like a Bond villain.
Oh,
you know, because
it felt a little over the top. Yeah,
it's kind of is almost a little campy, almost. Too.
Yeah, I would agree.
He invites him to his office, and he's in like a tuxedo, and he's like, "Hello, noodles."
Yeah,
and then he's like, "I stole your woman, and I took all the money.
Yeah,
now I want you to kill me."
It's like this big reveal, but because of how
insane it is.
extreme it is, it almost takes you out of it.
And I think that's
Yeah.
why De Niro acts the way he does. Is like, okay, you're same old Max. You're just kind of
whoa.
insane.
Yeah, that's interesting. I thought he was just reacting because it's like, I thought he was like numb. I thought he was like numb to it because it's like all this information at once, and it's like his whole life has been a lie for the last 35 years.
And
But,
De Niro's
yeah.
character is interesting too because as the film goes on, you find out that he doesn't have like he has ambition, but it only goes to a certain point. Whereas Max is always trying to like next big
Get
thing,
bigger.
next big thing, next big thing.
Yeah.
And so it's just interesting that they have this friendship, but then they also have like totally different ways of going about doing it. And you see that too when De Niro goes away to prison for a long time and he comes back and he finds out that his gang's still making money, but they have like this big racket, this big underground bar that they
Oh yeah,
you know,
speakeasy.
and Max is like, see, like we kept it going, like I had all these ideas and
Yeah.
and now anyway, it's just kind of interesting like the dynamic between those two friends, which I think is a big part of the story and what it's trying to say. I will say the one thing that I'm like just like made me cringe and I'm like I almost don't know if I wanted it in there is there is one rape scene in the movie. Well, there's
actually
two
two
rape
scenes.
scenes, but the first rape scene, it's kind of weird because the woman kind of likes it,
Yeah, but
which
it's
is
still
kind of
definitely
it's
under-
weird. But then the second
It's
one,
still like it's still like under force and
Yeah.
coercion. Yeah.
but the second one is the one
it's
that's just
brutal.
like I had to skip it because it was so bad.
I wish I would have skipped it. It was really definitely a huge warning for anybody who's going to watch this film.
Yeah.
Very upsetting part of the movie. They're definitely not heroes. The protagonist and Max, neither of them are good guys. To me, this film was a tragedy, whereas the other film ends on a hopeful, like happy ending. Well, fairly happy ending, bittersweet ending. This one is tragic, and I think it shows like everything in these streets that was sacred or good ultimately becomes profane and twisted, and it's like the slow corruption. Like I felt like the film really was like this story of repeated traumas and how after each trauma the characters sink further into basically nihilistic like debauchery, like how they become worse people, and how anything that kind of represented the good and the beautiful ultimately is either lost or through some evil act like rape is dishonored. Do you know what I mean? Like it's definitely a melancholy film.
Yeah, like how you were like calling back to how you were talking about life and them slowly, going down this road and that they keep making the same mistakes over and over again. I guess that's kind of like life in a nutshell. Sometimes people just keep making those same mistakes, and I guess when you're raised in a gang mentality, that's kind of all you know, especially how young they were when they first started their gang, and then just
They've only known like this brutal.
they've only known like this brutal type, like this brutal way.
Yeah.
And even at the beginning of the film, when you meet Deborah, who's like the love interest of Noodles, her younger self, even back when she was young, there's that quote in the film. She says something like, I know that I can never have you. She says something like that because of his life, the lifestyle that he leads. Like,
Oh yeah.
she cares for him, but she also realizes like this evil part of himself, even back when they were young, which was interesting that was brought up. And then later in the film, you know, they have this nice date, but then she breaks the news to him, like, I'm leaving to become an actress. I'm trying to pursue my dreams. And then he just brutally rapes her in the car, which is like it's just like one of the worst
horrible.
rape, you know, scenes that I think is probably on film, like that I've seen. And it was so bad I had to like skip it, you know, because it's just so painful to watch.
Yeah.
And I think he was just trying to show like how horrible it is, how horrible of a thing that is. And I think what made it even worse was like their love interest that they had. Like he was always good to her, even like throughout their many years together.
I think it shows his transformation into this ultimately brutal person.
Yeah, this evil person. So I looked up there were a lot of people that were not happy about those two rape scenes when the movie came out, especially women. Obviously, they didn't like that part of it. But I do have a quote here that I thought was interesting, and I just wanted to read it. It's from Elizabeth McGovern. She's the actress that is in that scene during the rape scene. And this is what she said about the whole scene. She said, "It didn't glamorize violent sex. It is extremely uncomfortable to watch, and it is meant to be." She went on to say, "And if you say this violence is wrong, you'd have to enlarge that to say all violence in movies is wrong. And then you'd have to say you can only make movies about good people who obey the law and do right things, which excludes a lot of what life is and makes for some very boring movies." So her cope was like, this is an interesting way to tell the story. These are complicated characters.
And like that kind of thing exists in the world, and to not make films about it is to like deny its existence, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
It is exactly. It's definitely. I could have gone without it. I'll be honest.
I think I could have too, or at least they could have made it a lot shorter.
Yeah, it was. It feels like it goes on. I think he probably had a point to it. It probably was in the book too. I don't know if it was in the book.
Yeah. And then there was another quote that I thought was interesting too. This comes from a Leone scholar. I think he probably wrote a biography on the director, but he talks about the gang that they're emotionally stunted, like small boys obsessed with their equipment who have no idea how to relate to flesh and blood and women. So
yeah, they're definitely. I could see that they're emotionally stunted.
Yeah, he's like giving that as a cope, I guess, of like why they don't care about women and stuff, which I get, and it is shown in the movie. But yeah, that scene is just super long.
Yeah,
and it's so anyway. Just trigger warning for everybody out there.
For sure.
If you watch this film, just
skip.
Be aware that is in the film. The last thing that I wanted to talk about the film, which I thought was interesting, and I didn't even realize this. So going back to the movie starts with him going and he getting high on opium, and then it ends with that creepy smile. Yeah. You know, like how it's that freeze frame.
He looked like the Joker, man.
He did. It was kind of crazy, but it's that moment where he gets high and he smiles for the first time, and then it cuts right there. But a lot of people say, and it has been confirmed by some people, a theory from the movie is the reason why it starts and ends with that scene is that everything after 1933, everything after him getting high is all in his head.
What?
Because he's hallucinating. So all of the scenes where he's old, so all the scenes where he goes back to his past trying to find the money, everything with
including Max being
everything with Max being alive, and like this crazy
what.
So
I don't know what I think about
it's kind of interesting because like that whole storyline's kind of crazy, and like if he's high, that kind of makes
more sense.
Kind of makes sense, and then also him actually going back and talking to Deborah again as she's older. I mean, they don't really.
Do you notice that
they don't really apologize though?
No.
He doesn't really apologize for what he did.
No.
But
do you notice he's aged a lot, and it shows the Max's former love interest has aged a lot, but it shows Deborah basically how she was. Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, she's aged a little bit. I don't know if
You don't know if that was on
I don't know if that
purpose.
was intentional. Maybe they just didn't.
But if
do as
it
much
was in
makeup.
his head, then
Yeah. So some
it was
people
more like how he saw.
Yeah.
her,
So some
maybe.
people have theorized that like all those flashbacks when he's old, that's just all in his head. So like,
Yeah.
you know, it's almost like a way for him to cope with the fact that
Wow.
Max is dead, is to come up with this crazy story of him inviting him
Wow.
to his house, and then another reason, like another example of how maybe that proves that theory is at the very end when De Niro says, "No, I'm not going to kill you, Max," and he starts walking out of the house, and he looks back and he sees Max walking out, and then you see that garbage truck, and then all of a sudden he's not there, and then you look behind the garbage truck, and you don't see a body, you don't see like, because there's that auger that's going, but you don't see any like body,
No.
you know, you don't see blood or body parts.
No.
So that's another example why people
Interesting.
think that maybe that's just all in his head. Because right after that, it is weird. It's bizarre that right after that thing where he realizes like, was that Max or was that not? It goes right to him going to get
To
high.
the opium.
You know what I mean? So anyway, that's kind of an interesting thing that I found when I was reading about the film.
That's really interesting.
I'm going to be thinking about that part a lot.
Yeah.
Like way long after this.
Well, how would you rate the film?
So with this one, Once Upon a Time in America, I liked it a lot more. I felt like the story was more engaging. I felt a little more connected to the characters. I think it had a lot to say.
Yeah.
I think Once Upon a Time in the West, like I said, is more artistic, and it is super cinematic.
Yeah.
But I like Once Upon a Time in America more.
Yeah.
I don't know, you know, the next time I'm gonna watch it again, but
Yeah.
I mean, I think if I do watch it, I'm probably gonna skip the rape scenes.
Oh,
So.
for sure. I liked it. I think that I would give it a similar score, maybe 4.5 out of 5 again. Yeah.
I think I gave Once Upon a Time in America 4,
Okay.
and then I gave Once Upon in the West 3.5.
Okay. Yeah.
But
I could see that.
anyway, like I said, I think I need to rewatch Once Upon a Time in the West again.
I think if
You
you're
kind of absorb it.
prepared for the length of the films, like if you're going into it knowing I'm sitting down for a long film, it makes it less like of a factor.
Yeah. Well,
But,
that's the thing
yeah.
is like with Once Upon a Time in America, I was never thinking about. I was just like I don't know. For some reason, I was so engaged with the story
Yeah.
that it didn't feel long to me. But I could see how there's probably some things in there you could cut out that make the movie a little less long, you know. But
I think part of the reason why it didn't feel as long too might be because it had that alternate
it was going back and
storytelling, like where it's going from
Yeah.
different timelines. Yeah.
which is what Tarantino did
Yeah.
in Pulp Fiction a lot.
Yeah.
But I mean, he might have gotten it from this movie. I mean, this isn't the only film that does that, but
Well, Tarantino did cite Once Upon a Time in the West as an influence, so I wouldn't be surprised if Once Upon a Time in America is also an influence on him.
yeah.
So,
And it was cool to watch the whole, because there's that famous scene of their gang walking, and then you see the big Brooklyn Bridge.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's a famous scene that I've seen a lot in just different clips. So it was funny, like when I was watching, I was like, "Oh, that's the shot!"
Yeah, I was like,
You
oh,
know,
right.
I thought that was funny. So.
Yeah, Tabitha pointed it out to me. Yeah.
Oh, she did when you guys
Yeah,
were watching
we were
it.
watching it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can go to that exact place, that street, and you can see the Brooklyn Bridge because it's still there.
Very
But
cool.
anyway, yeah, this week was super fun, Corey.
Yeah.
I'm glad that your uncle gave
Yeah,
us
thank
kind of like
you,
a new
my
idea
uncle. Yeah.
for like for pairing the films together.
Yeah.
So,
And if you guys have an idea of either a movie pairing or an album pairing, send it our way.
yeah, we might just do it.
Yeah. Our DMs are open on Instagram.
There you go. Well, thanks again, guys. We'll see you next time for the podcast. Thanks.
See ya.